Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Pressplay Podcast. I'm incredibly excited to have Hani from FAHY Studios joining in from Riyadh on today's podcast. And FAHY Studios is one of the more exciting gaming studios from Riyadh. And I particularly like this story because there are studios, and then there are studios who have really thought about distribution, monetization, etc. So I'm incredibly excited to have Hani on today's podcast. Welcome, Hani.
Thank you so much, Vinit. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, and I'm excited to share whatever insights or stories I've been through so far.
Awesome. So let's get straight into it. Tell us the story about FAHY Studios. What inspired you to start a game studio from Riyadh?
Awesome. All right. So Fahi was started by three co-founders, myself, as well as Fahad, our business and publishing lead, as well as Uwais, our tech lead. Uh, so maybe I'll talk about my personal story first. So personally, gaming has always been an integral part of my childhood. And I think this applies to almost every Saudi millennial that you will speak to. We've been gamers since we were children. To me, my obsession has always been Nintendo. I still remember owning the Nintendo 64, playing Super Mario 64 for the first time. I was also obsessed with Pokemon, and actually, Pokemon as an IP is what led me to my interest in game development. And that's because beyond playing Pokemon games in my teenage years, I was so excited that I wanted to somewhat build my own game. So I started modding some Pokemon games where I had to change the narrative, design my own characters, and so on. And then that led me to starting my own gaming forum. And it was not just a forum to talk about games, but also rather to play a forum-based RPG, a text-based RPG on the forum. I remember setting up this shop where you can buy weapons, and then you defining the game rules. It was my first experience in game design. And then from there, to be honest, building a gaming studio was not a career choice that any of us thought. Surely it was a dream, but it was not a dream we took seriously, unfortunately. Creative industries in the Saudi culture were not common. People expected you to be an engineer, a doctor, or a banker. Those were the choices. So I went to university. I was interested in the tech side. I studied MIS, Management Information Systems. And then after that, life got busy. I worked in management consulting in PwC first. I still played a lot of games with my friends. I then moved to SCC. I worked in corporate strategy. And then things started happening in Saudi. We got Vision 2030, and gaming was determined to be a significant investment area or strategic focus sector for the government. And they started building these programs. And that's really when this itch came back to me. And I started thinking about, okay, if I wanted to enter this industry, what can I do? I started speaking to friends, and that's how I reached out to Fahad, who was a childhood friend. He was with me at school as well as university, and we've always played games together. We decided to take a stab at creating one game. It was called Footy Traps. It was football related, a football strategy game. So we started looking for a developer because neither of us was a developer. We had the game design angle, we had the business angle, but we needed a developer. We came across Uwais, who's really young, by the way, but he's a brilliant programmer. And we started working on that first game, and that's how things started progressing. After working on the first game, we worked on another game, participated in a few competitions, ended up in the NEOM accelerator, which helped us a lot. And finally, only a few weeks ago, I have decided to step out of the corporate world, left my corporate job at SCC to focus full-time on FAHY as a studio. That's practically how things started.
Nice, nice. So certain buzzwords came out of that conversation. I mean, Pokemon Go, Nintendo, your corporate career, but then you cannot uh, ignore the power of the Vision 2030. And a lot of startups and people who I speak in Saudi
Mm.
are so or were so inspired from that vision that led them to their entrepreneurial journeys. And how integral of a role that still plays in Saudi society. And gaming is a key element of that. Uh, that's brilliant, man. So tell me about Fahi. What does it mean, and what kind of company are you guys creating?
Yes. So Fahi is a word that we use in the Saudi dialect. Typically, there's no one-to-one translation in English, but it typically refers to someone who's too in his head. You know, when you speak to someone and he's not focused, he doesn't really hear you out. He's just looking into the sky. Basically, this is describing someone who we would call Fahi. And the reason we chose this name is because when you are too focused on playing a game, you're typically Fahi. But it also stands for our initials as co-founders. So it worked out.
Oh wow, nice, nice. That's a pleasant coincidence.
Yes. As for the company, what we want to build is not a single game. Our goal has always been to build a company that is able to produce successful games consistently, right? And this means a lot of things. It means that we need to set up the right team, we need to set up the right processes, we need to build multiple functions, we need to be able to build games in a scalable manner. And obviously, that's a lot. We're still early on our journey, so we tried to prioritize. As you had mentioned in your introduction, we've decided that for this period, we want to master production and we want to push publishing externally, and that's why we focus on finding the right publishing partner early on. This will help us really stay focused, stay nimble, and hopefully we can grow step by step.
Awesome. And do you want to share with us the genre and the kind of games that you guys have developed and continue to develop?
Sure. So if you remember when I first spoke about how FAHY came to be, we had started working on a game called Footy Traps. And one of the early realizations we had back then is that concept was too big for the three of us. It was only the three of us working. And the more we developed on the game, the more we realized there's a lot left. So we had
Mm.
to take a brave decision of pausing production on that and working on something more simple, something we know we can deliver, right? So the first game we actually delivered was called Smash and Dash. It was more hyper casual, very simple game. It's an endless runner where you drive a car, but the unique feature about it was to gain speed, you had to crash cars. So there was this dynamic or adrenaline aspect of it. So that was the first game we created. However, our long-term vision is to focus on the genre that is called hybrid casual. And
Okay.
we've been hearing the term hybrid casual often recently, and you'll find many definitions of it. The way we look at it is from a monetization perspective. So when we say hybrid, it means we want to build games that are able to monetize through both ads and also in-app purchases.
Mm.
And obviously, ads is simple to monetize through, but in-app purchases, to be able to tap into that, you need to build games that can trigger an emotional connection with the player, a game that the player feels is worth putting some cash on, right? So
Yeah.
that's really our focus. And the reason we focus on hybrid casual, I think three main reasons. First is the market reality. We saw that with the recent changes on privacy policy, the cost per installs on marketing campaigns have gone up significantly. So ad
Yeah.
revenue now is not enough if you want to scale your
Yeah.
games properly. And
Hmm.
the other reason is our creative drive as creators as well, because building a simple game is not as interesting as building a game with deeper narrative, with deeper elements. So it really
Hmm.
excites us to build deeper games. And finally, going to the hardcore or maybe fully casual route and depending only on in-app purchases is probably too big of a bite for us to
Hmm.
chew at the point. So
Yeah.
hybrid casual is really a sweet spot that fits us as a team.
Okay. Awesome. And you mentioned about your publication or the publisher
Mm.
partnerships that you have in place. Maybe
Yes.
you want to share with us also the distribution part of your strategy.
Yes. So as I said, we took a conscious decision to focus on being a production house for games rather than as a publisher at the beginning, and
Hmm.
that's why from the early get-go, our focus was to be able to find the right publishing partner. And this is why we prioritized delivering a complete game, because we know that by having a game out there, it will facilitate the conversations with publishing partners. So we
Mm.
started looking locally, and we realized quickly that the MENA in general is not as developed, and thus finding a local partner will not teach us as fast as working with someone global with the right expertise. So we
Hmm.
started speaking globally to different publishers, to different players, attended events, including Gamescom in Germany. And luckily, uh, we had a great connection with Kwalee. We've met them in a few events. Kwalee is a UK-based publisher.
Hmm.
And they were also going through their own journey of transitioning from hyper casual games to hybrid casual. And they were looking for studios that are willing to invest in hybrid casual games. So there was a shared vision in a sense from the beginning. And the second
Right.
thing is they showed a lot of interest in the MENA region. They really believed in what was happening in Saudi and in MENA
Mm.
broadly.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so we started sharing with them the ideas that we have. It took a while; it wasn't a quick journey.
Yeah.
We met with them over a period of 3 months until we were finally able to close a deal, and now we're working with them. Uh, we're meeting with them on a weekly basis, working together on a few titles.
Right. So no, that's great. I think there's a lot of merit in sharing with the audience and the listeners on uh, how exactly a partnership with a company like Quali works for a production house or
Mm,
game production house like yourself, because a lot of people in the gaming community in MENA in India are trying to actually figure out what their moat is.
mm,
And you knew very quickly that you want to focus on your gaming production.
mm,
So how does someone like Quali help?
mm. That's a very good question. To be honest, you will find very different models that publishers use to deal with studios.
Hmm.
From FAHY's perspective, because we came from Saudi, because the industry is not as mature as in other places, uh, I wouldn't say we were able to compete with global studios when it comes to publishers. So we had to take different angles. It was not only about the quality of games we're producing, but it was also about selling quality, the grander vision of what Saudi is trying to do, right? Helping them get access to our ecosystem as well, to our studios in Saudi, helping them get a foot into the region. So there was a lot of synergy. However, the more traditional publisher outlook would be purely based on data. If you have a game that has strong retention figures, they'll be
Hmm.
interested. Otherwise, they'll tell you, go build something else and come back and show us. Uh, However, the type of relationship we have with Quali is, as I said, really collaborative. Big
Okay.
publishers, first of all, have the cash to help you scale your user acquisition campaigns. A smaller
Yeah.
studio that cash will never be able to invest so much. And second of all, they have the right data-driven platforms to really help you know which creatives are performing well, where are the hiccups in your progression flow or balance of the game. So these insights are really valuable, in addition to obviously having expert game designers themselves, as well as technical experts who can help us whenever we face any challenges. So it's really end-to-end support that we're getting from Quali.
Nice. Awesome. And going back to your audience, we
Mm,
spoke about the fact that okay, we're a homegrown game production house from Riyadh with a publisher partner like Quali for distribution.
mm,
um, you want to talk a little bit about the kind of audience that's playing your game, and
mm,
as an extension of that question, how do you collect that data?
mm. Um, so we haven't had a global launch yet of a game. We have
Okay.
a bunch of titles in soft launch and
Okay.
testing. The
Okay.
way we build the way we build our games is, although we're obviously building from Saudi, we do have global talents that are working from Singapore, from Poland. And because we're working with Kwalee, a global publisher, our focus is the global audience. So we build
Nice.
games that have to be global in essence,
Okay.
um, which means that you need to avoid heavy text, especially in the onboarding. You need to think about narratives that would be relevant globally. So these things we keep in mind. And when we test our games, when we do our soft launches, we try different markets. Obviously, the US is the biggest market, and that's where most of the monetization happens. But we also do tests in countries like East Asia, Philippines, Brazil, even India, in addition
Okay.
to our local ecosystem in Saudi as well.
Got it. Nice. Nice. And in terms of building for GCC,
Mm,
how do you anticipate users from this region taking to your games? And
mm,
as an extension of that, uh, how do you sort of incorporate? I guess it's easy
mm.
being a Saudi yourself, Saudi national yourself, that you understand some of the local nuances.
Yes. Yeah, so there are some nuances with GCT players, especially mobile players. I
Mm,
think social elements are critical for uh, for GCC players. They love being able to play games socially, getting to know people through their games, showing off at times through their in-app purchases and the characters that they build. So these things are definitely things that we keep in mind when we think of the local context. But
okay.
as I initially said, at the end of the day, GCC or Saudi gamers are not so far from any gamer that you will meet in the West or in the East. We've been playing
Right.
games since our childhood. We're exposed to the same games that global audiences are exposed to. We have similar expectations, similar. Uh, so, yes, there are some local things that we have to keep in mind. But at the end of the day, a strong, successful global game will resonate with the local audience as well.
Right, right. Got it. Got it. Nice. I am constantly amazed that the affinity, especially in Saudi, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone I talk to, everyone loves the racing games. So there is like an obsession with racing games, and also character-driven IPs like Pokemon, as you mentioned.
Yes.
It's like
That
huge branding.
That is true. I mean, some of the biggest drifting games have been produced in Saudi and are tailored for the local audience. Drifting has a big cultural significance in
Yeah.
Saudi, uh,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure a lot of the global audience knows how in the GCC they love their car plate numbers and they'd be willing to bid for those. And we've seen games that utilize this to monetize as well. So you'd buy your own license plate within the game. Right.
Right, right. No, absolutely. Oh, wow, that's an interesting one. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, in terms of your team, and for anyone looking to start up in the gaming space, in the GCC or literally anywhere, what have your learnings been, Honey?
Yes. Um, so the first realization that we had to deal with is the limitation of the local talent pool in Saudi, and that includes us as co-founders. We did not have the traditional game dev experience. We did not have game development education. Our developers self-taught, etc. So there's this limitation. We have a lot of passion. We have a lot of driven talents that are doing their best, but there is a limitation. And thus, to us, it was critical to learn from more mature markets. And this is why our uh, our thesis when it comes to building the team was to combine some local talents with global talents. And this is why we reached out to countries within the Middle East as well as in Europe and in East Asia to kind
Mhm.
of build this mix where we have more junior local talents learning from the more senior experts in the West. And we believe that this combination allows us to retain some of the creative uniqueness that we can give as Saudis, but also leverage the expertise that are available globally. And I really recommend for other studios to not only rely on local talents, but really tap into the global talent pool. And it's easy now with remote work. You
Yeah.
can do it, it's manageable, and people are interested. We did not find it difficult to recruit people. They're interested in what Saudi is doing in gaming. It's a good time for the local ecosystem because there's a lack of funding somewhat in the gaming industry globally. So that we have a unique position today to be able to attract really good talents and leverage them.
No, absolutely. I think you made some great points there that, also as an extension of that, for some time there was a narrative that startups that are building in the GCC uh, are building for the GCC, and so the addressable market size is not that large. However, when you look at gaming specifically, two things stand out. A lot of startups across the GCC, but especially in Saudi, are building in Saudi for the world,
Yes,
uh, and therefore are inherently scalable. So as an investor looking at this, your addressable market size is significantly larger and just not focused on the GCC. So that's a big plus.
that
Uh,
is very.
Tell me about your investment journey. I know some of the stuff is under wraps and is going to be announced soon. However, uh, I'm assuming that coming from an STC background was a huge fillip.
Yes. So honestly, having our corporate jobs had helped us a lot at the beginning because we were self-funded for a while. We had to put that initial money to get things going, right? And then, to be honest, the whole Vision 2030 and the gaming strategy that the country has put, it did touch upon every part of the gaming value chain. So you will see programs that help train people on even from school years, training programs for people who are interested in games, to sending some people out to the best universities and train them. But they also had incubators that were meant uh, to to basically bring together the people who are interested in the gaming industry and even do matchmaking between potential co-founders to produce these local studios. And amongst those was an accelerator that Neom had started. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of Neom,
Mhm.
with the Line mega project. So Neom, as a city of the future, they had defined also a few industries that they want to build up within Neom, and one of them was gaming. So the idea of the accelerator was to, from an initial stage, fund and support some of the local studios with potential, uh, with the uh, with the hope that they would relocate to Neom once Neom is alive and striving. So that was really the initial significant funding that we had received from Neom's accelerator, and it really helped us scale the team and turn from a bunch of hobbyists to a more proper team. And then
Nice.
beyond this, even towards the end of the value chain or funding funnel, we see that the government has also worked with local VCs to prepare gaming specific funds.
Mm.
Uh, and these funds are meant to help not only local studios grow, but it's also meant to attract global studios to relocate to Saudi. So we
Mm.
expect in the coming few years to start seeing more and more global studios relocating to Saudi to get access to this funding.
Nice, nice, awesome. And how long were you guys with the Neom accelerator?
It was a 1 year program, actually.
Oh,
It
okay,
was a 1 year program full of workshops, mentorship, as I said, financial funding. It was very helpful.
okay, awesome. And no, that's great. I love love how Saudi is building the ecosystem from grounds up. You always hear about some of the bigger ticket acquisitions, like for example, Savvy Group's acquisition of Niantic
Yes.
was the big headline. Billions of dollars.
Mm,
However, most of the action is actually happening at the grassroots level.
that is
Uh,
very.
so that's great to see. um, cool. And Hani, you spoke about a lot of things related to in relation to your startup and the team,
Yes.
and the distribution. In terms of I'm just going back to the data part because I know that not enough is spoken about data and analytics.
Mm,
How have you guys planned to look at the metrics of success
yes.
for your company? And is that investor driven? Is that you guys are playing a conscious role?
Yes. Um, so definitely, investors will always ask about your metrics.
Yeah.
Not only investors, but also the publisher we're working with. And to be
Right.
honest, it's not rocket science at the end of the day. Mobile gaming has clear metrics that any studio needs to keep in mind.
Hmm.
Obviously, you start with CPI, the cost per install. You need to make sure that your cost per install is manageable and allows you to scale. And
Hmm.
obviously, this is dependent on what country you're marketing to, as well as where you are in your scaling adventure. Because as you probably know, CPI will increase the more investment you put into your UA.
Hmm.
Beyond CPI, the most critical metrics that we are obsessing about are definitely retention, and this includes your day one retention, so how many people are playing your game the next day after their install, and then you
Yeah.
have your day 7 and your day 30, and these are critical to enable in-app purchases. Without long-term retention, you will always have to only rely on ads, right? And the
Yeah.
last one is ROAS, your return on ad spend, and this is where you start measuring monetization. So these are
Yeah.
really the key metrics that we have to keep in mind, and we're still learning a lot on how to optimize them and how to track them alongside our publishing.
Great. So, I mean, at Pressplay, we are tracking the attention economy, and I think retention is the crux of everything. If you're building in the space, whether it's gaming or a OTT platform or anything to do with video and streaming, it all starts and ends with retention. And so that's like pretty much being on a treadmill, because you got to constantly keep running to keep pace with the customers' expectation and
To be
um,
honest, it's more like running on multiple treadmills because every game will have its own retention strategy and
yeah,
yeah, so it's like you're managing multiple startups at the same time. Every game has its own model, and you have to innovate within it and keep track and optimize.
absolutely. Do you see that as a upcoming as a constant challenge? How do you intend to keep on top of that in terms of team and yeah,
Yeah, uh, it's definitely a challenge. Scaling up your team does not always equal scaling up your pipeline. I wish it was that simple and one to one.
true.
Actually, we now that we're scaling up the team, we're facing new challenges that we haven't faced when we were a younger team. Like how should developers integrate their code bases together, and a lot of when you grow the team, a lot of new challenges arise.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of learning happening. And one of the things that I would advise younger or studios that are just starting to think about early is to build their games in scalable manners or build, let's say, modules that they are able to reuse or edit easily. So instead
Mm,
of focusing, so it's very important to launch early and focus on speed, but do
mm,
not, but make sure that your code is reusable. Because if you spend all this time, you build a game and then it fails and you want to start a new project, you're going to start from scratch.
yeah.
However, if you build your RPG game through thinking of RPG templates, building the proper, let's say, system for skills, system for battles, an inventory system, and build them in a way that you can reintegrate into your new title, then it will save you a lot of time.
Smart.
This is something critical that will help
Yeah.
you manage multiple projects at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Are you guys, I'm just curious, are you guys using AI at all in terms for, to make your game development faster, cheaper, more efficient? What's your take?
Yes, so we're constantly exploring AI tools. We are using a few, but
Okay.
we don't feel like they had reached the stage where you can fully depend on them yet. So the most uses we see today is definitely in art.
Okay.
There are very interesting AI tools to produce concept art as well as actual characters, and we are even experimenting with tools that help you turn 2D concept art into 3D models. They're not
Mm,
perfect, but they have the potential to save a lot of time. The same
yeah.
is happening from a development perspective. I'm pretty sure all our devs are using AI to help them identify bugs and fix them, in addition to structure systems and help them think through it. And the last part that I find very interesting is how AI is being used in user acquisition, especially in creating your ads. There are very interesting AI tools that can produce fake influencers that can market your product with really cheap. So
Yeah, nice.
yes, AI is definitely touching the whole value
Awesome.
chain. Yeah,
That's amazing. That's amazing. And tell me, and we'll wrap up post this, but um, what is your in terms of you deciding what games to make? How
Mm,
does the team decide? You have three co-founders. What does that process look like?
yes. So first of all, part of the job of our game design members is to play a lot of games. That's a fun part of the job.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
very important to keep in touch with what's happening in the market, the trends. So that's one
Yeah.
aspect.
Right.
Beyond this, when we have capacity to work on a new game, we usually host brainstorming sessions where we let ideas flow freely. Post that, we have our game designers refining these ideas into proof of concepts, like what exactly can we test to see if this core mechanic will work out or not. And then after we do our votes, we look at what has potential to scale, what has potential to have low CPI, if it looks interesting from a video perspective. Then we take those ideas and we start building proof of concepts, and we try to test them early with our colleagues, our friends within the team and outside. And then once these ideas show potential, it gets people excited, people are talking about it, then we start really thinking about our MVP, our vertical slides. So what is the smallest product that we can put in the market to start testing early retention figures? And from then it becomes a game of data. If your
Hmm.
data is not up to par, then rethink, optimize, and you also have to be brave to kill some concepts if you give it enough time and it's not working out right.
Yeah. No. Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, honey. Thank you for your time. Really
Thank,
appreciate it. Wishing FAHY Studios the very best for 2025 and beyond, and looking forward to meeting in person soon as well.
thank you. We really hope we'd be the first real success story coming from the small local ecosystem. And again, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks. Thanks, honey.